All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. It is Thursday, December 4th. If you'd believe it, we are 3 weeks from Christmas and 4 weeks from the new year. And so it is time for our annual webinar, How to Land a Job in 2026. My name is Albert. I'm the founder of Albert's List, and we are a job search organization helping you become the most resilient professional you can possibly be through AI job search and side hustle skills. If you're finding out about the live networking event, go to our Eventbrite page where you likely RSVP'd to come here. I'm going to go ahead and drop our Eventbrite link somewhere here in the comment section so that you can be linked to it and just see everything that we have. Okay, wonderful. So this will be a live webinar here where I'm just going to go through my thoughts as I go through them and then have all of you kind of um, reply to questions as they come through. Once again, this webinar is being recorded, and if you are here for the very first time, welcome. If you are not, welcome back. Please feel free to use the webinar chat to network, say hi to each other, collaborate, meet each other offline, and hopefully hire each other as well. We always have a global audience here, and we also have our poll on what we feel about 2026 sentiment. So we're going to go ahead and keep that poll running throughout most of this webinar. I want to see if the numbers change at all throughout. So who am I? My name is Albert. Again, I was saying I'm a San Francisco Bay Area born and raised job search entrepreneur, product marketing manager, and founder of Albert's List, a community of 50,700 members on Facebook, connecting job seekers, hiring managers, job opportunities, networking, and a bunch of our AI, side hustle, and career related events. You can join our community today. Let me know that you found the community here, and I will be happy to invite you in so you can join us for all the conversation that we have on a regular basis. So the agenda today is fairly cut and dry. I think it's important to really talk about where we've been because that's going to inform where we're headed. The state of the job market is up first, right? We've had a really crazy, tumultuous year, and I think it's important to just talk about what everything's looked like. And then we're going to go into our 2026 trends and what they really mean. You might remember that we did a bunch of 2025 trends last year. A lot of them were somewhat political, a lot very economical. We looked at things like tariffs. We looked at the changing face of immigration, tech jobs coming back. I would say that I hit most of these trends, but I mean, I think the overall thing is that things have not gotten better after they have supposedly gotten worse. And so we're kind of still in that holding pattern. And I think we're going to be in that holding pattern for a while as this whole AI thing shakes out. I really do think it'll probably get even worse before it gets better, and I'll hop into the details of that. Then, of course, we'll do our little roundabout promotions of everything that we do here at Albert's List. I want to invite you in to engage with us in our various webinars, as this is sort of the beginnings of your relationship with Albert's List, because I don't want to just sell you things. I also want to talk to you about things as well. And then hopefully, if there's a little bit of time at the end, we can do a little bit of Q&A. All right, so our goals for today's webinar is pretty simple. This is our webinar where we take a 50,000-foot view of the job market and then we zoom in a little bit. I think it's always important to understand the high-level trends that are governing the United States and the global economy. And I think it's interesting, right? I know that we have folks who are here from Australia, from India, from New Zealand, maybe some folks here who are late from Europe. And, I think it's important to note, right, that every time the United States sneezes, the rest of the world sneezes. And every time the United States succeeds and is thriving, then the rest of the world can feel like it breathes a little bit easier. For better or for worse, we sometimes suck the energy out of the room and the oxygen out of the room, and that's always fascinating. I want to leave you empowered, hopefully, to embark on your job search, give you an idea of what to strategize with, and then give you the resources to move forward with some hope. And those are generally our events and our webinars where we talk about all the topics that we do to support your job search wherever you may be. So just to start a little bit, this is the state of the job market. We're going to talk about where things have been in 2025 and some of the things that have been leading along. And of course, this is the first chart I always put up, which is layoffs, right? Ever since really the beginning of 2024, we've seen sort of this this up and down roller coaster of layoffs. Some months have more than others. October has been some of the highest layoffs that we have seen really for a while since some of this recording started. And you'd see that we also have really high layoffs in April, August of last year, April of last year, and January of last year. And, surprisingly so, we're also still seeing layoffs that are coming by way of people who are claiming that COVID overhiring caused them to lay off. And even though COVID has been uh, officially over for a long time, you're probably still going to see companies say some of those things for a while, which is just kind of odd at its own level. But that's where we are. December is very low because we're literally on the fourth day of the month. And so there's really not, I would say, that many layoffs to be had. If you ask me for my personal opinion, December and November are the worst months to lay off, only because you're getting people right into the holiday season and they're going home without their paychecks and so forth. And so that's always a pretty dour mood. Unemployment rate and everything. So, as you might also know, here, at least in the United States, unemployment in September ticked up to 4.4%. And, we really haven't had that much of jobs data, at least from the government side, with our 2 month government shutdown that happened between October 1st and November 12th. And so some of that data is starting to trickle in. And so it is fairly tough. Henry, I am so sorry to hear that you graduated before January, right before January 2024. It has been a tough market for new grads, without a doubt, because AI has taken over a lot. And we'll talk about that a little bit too. Um, and so, yeah, also for the first time in a long time earlier this year, back in July, we saw a negative jobs report. It came after the fact, right? We keep reporting that job creation is way higher than it usually is. And then we go back and those numbers are revised downwards as jobs aren't filled. And so what we noticed here is that, jobs are a little bit less than what we anticipated. And so the job market is starting to really fizzle out, which is not great for a lot of different reasons. And for those who also follow the ADP report, the ADP report here in the United States, ADP is a payment processor that also gives out a monthly jobs report reporting on who hired and who hasn't. And so honestly, if you look at the last 6 months, we've only had positive job numbers for 4 out of those last 6. We lost 32,000 jobs in this last month alone. And most of those jobs actually came from small businesses, which tend to be the backbone of America. And so if we're looking at trends that will concern that, what's really going to be of concern in my mind is that if small businesses are shedding jobs and the broader macroeconomic situation is not great because um, that means they're not getting their loans, or they're running up higher debt, or they're just seeing higher costs, which require them to lay those folks off because the cost of doing business is more. Lisa, I'm sorry to hear that you were laid off on November 11th. I hope that this webinar can help you a little bit today, and that many of our other webinars can be of benefit to you as well. The US also has more unemployed people than job openings for the first time since April of 2021. This is a chart that actually came to fruition about this August or so. And so in July, the US had 7.18 million job openings and 7.24 million unemployed workers, which is not great. I think that this chart has probably worsened over the last couple of months, even though we haven't had the data. And so these are a lot of the headwinds that we're facing as we look into this job market and where we're going. October job cut announcements were some of the highest in that we've seen in October over the last like 5 years or so, even higher than what we saw in 2020. We saw that Amazon laid off a ton of people. I think Verizon. We're also looking at AT&T and T and a couple of these other legacy companies. And so, it's getting really interesting out there. I never think of these things as very good things because this is just a lot of people who are out of work. And that's a lot of people who are not uh, being productive, but also not being able to serve their families and be a part of their communities that they're a part of because they're trying to look for their next role. The other thing that we're looking at here, and I'm wondering what this chart was for. I think we're looking at You know what? I'm just going to skip it. This might be the inflation chart. I think this is the inflation chart, actually. The other thing that does affect the job market, as we like to continuously talk about here on Albert's list, is inflation. And so inflation is important for us because one thing to consider is that when money is more expensive to borrow, and also when inflation is high, things become more expensive, and companies lay people off because they need to focus on the day-to-day operations of that business versus being able to actually hire folks. The other thing about inflation is it's really tied into interest rates, or at least in some sense that I've been thinking about is that soon we're going to see a situation where interest rates are not tied closely to inflation because of what President Trump wants to do with the Federal Reserve. And this could be different in your country as well. Although what we're also seeing is that Japan has raised its interest rates also while pumping stimulus into the economy, which makes things incredibly, incredibly fascinating. But what we're seeing is that inflation is ticking back up, right? It went all the way back down to 2.9% earlier this year, and it went all the way down to like 2.4, but it's also creeping back up to the low 3% range as things like as prices go up on items due to tariffs and as spending just really goes crazy with things like AI and so forth. And so this is going to be a number to follow as we head into the next year. And, as we look at and think about AI, I think that's going to be another topic that we talk about a lot. Chris, you've been out of work since March of 2023. I'm really sorry to hear that. I hope that this webinar can help you as well. The other thing that we're seeing that's really dominating and sucking the oxygen out of this economy right now is AI, right? So AI spending has pretty much pretty much gone bonkers over the last year. This year, we've seen $370 billion in capital expenditures from all the companies, the major companies rather, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Meta. They have gone on a spending spree, buying up employees, buying up data centers, land for data centers, and so forth. And the annual amount of revenue that they need to actually pay this all off is about double that at 650 billion. And so the worries about the AI bubble are something that weigh heavily on me as I think about the state of the economy because a lot of companies are putting money that way. They're seeing some returns, but not always, not in every single case. And they're also looking to replace workers, unfortunately, like you and I, because we are expensive and we don't run 24/7. And so, as we think through this, one of the things that we're probably going to see in 2026 is that this spending goes up even higher. Companies realize that AI has a lot of appetite from people, yet when you think about their capital expenditures versus the annual revenue needed to pay them off, this is going to be really, really fascinating. And I saw this chart that was also super fascinating too, in that OpenAI, and this number has probably doubled by now. It's no longer 300 billion, it's something like 600. And OpenAI is now at, I think, 30 billion in revenue. And so when you think about this, AI, ChatGPT has invested a significant amount, or OpenAI has invested a significant amount in AI expenditures, and they only make about a fraction of that money that they have put in. And at some point, investors are going to want their money back. And we don't know whether that'll be tomorrow, next week, sometime next year. But that's why you're also seeing a lot of AI companies also wanting to go IPO because they see that there's a lot of potential in what happens. But you also know that when a company IPOs, that the true value of what the market thinks about the company is going to be revealed. And so, with OpenAI also calling for a code red the other day because of Google Gemini, it also stands to see how they're going to do that, right? So, I mean, you just see on this chart that last year, OpenAI made $3.7 billion and spent 157. Now they're at 12.7 in early 2025 and have spent 300. And so, with all those multiples of spending, it's really gone crazy over there. And so, we'll see if this all collapses on itself or goes in some kind of other direction. ChatGPT may cost you 20 bucks today, and it might cost you 150 bucks next year if they have their way because they're just trying to look to close that gap. So looking back, I really had a lot of hope coming into this year. I thought perhaps maybe because everyone voted Donald Trump in for economic nostalgia that it would go one way, but it's really gone another way, right? So tariffs, continuing federal government layoffs, AI, and overall layoffs continue to bring downward pressure and a lot of headwinds for where we're headed. AI mania continues to lead the market. And really, where all this is going is going to be super fascinating too, because I see it, and I think a lot of other people see it as well, and we're just all looking at each other, and we're like, well, what's going on here? Um, and so we're also going to see higher employment and higher inflation, which leads to stagflation, which means that the cost of life will be expensive, and not a lot of people will be working. And that's kind of a repeat of what we saw in the 1970s, and we're going to kind of see what happens from that. One of the things that we're going to be seeing next week is whether the Federal Reserve continues to lower interest rates. The ADP report kind of suggests that they will, and we've also seen that President Trump is going to install a new Federal Reserve chairman next year, who is probably going to be very, very amenable to anything and everything that he wants to do as it relates to interest rates. And so that's going to also create its own impact that we're going to talk about here for a moment too. And so I realize that I've talked a lot about economics so far and less so about the job search. But I think what's really important as I think through this is that if I talk about one but I don't talk about the other, then I am definitely selling myself short to some effect, but also not really telling the entire story. AI still remains an interesting area too, even though a broader information recession continues. That's the fourth bullet here, and that's really in reference to professional and business services, which continues to be really just flat throughout the year. We'll have months where it goes up 15, 20,000 jobs, and then we'll have other months where it just declines. And so I wrote something at the beginning where it said that something will give before the end of the year. And you know what? With the ADP report chart that I had over here, I think something is definitely beginning to give, and it's going to be very, 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 very like interesting and concerning to watch as we head into January. So if your job search has been a struggle, it's definitely not you. But I think thinking about the following trends that we're going to talk about on the next fewish slides, it's going to bring a little bit more understanding of where the market is. I'm truly trying not to sell any hope as much as I think I just want to sell some kind of reality and really bring at least some kind of reprieve with, what we do here at Albert's List and supporting job seekers in building skills and helping them become the most resilient that they can be possible. So here's our next section, which is 2026 predictions. Melissa says society is going to need to shift if jobs will be optional going forward. Currently, we have varying degrees of dependence on work for our livelihood with wages and our medical. Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know where anything is headed headed at the current moment, but I mean, it's just like if you think about that, I also don't want a world where people don't have to work anymore because I think people need a central vision of purpose. And if you concentrate the wealth into just a few people, the billionaires who, and soon to be trillionaires who own all the AI product, and they can get to dictate how you live based on universal basic income and everything else. Then, if you think about that as the most, I suppose, bull case for them and bear case for us, then we're in a situation where it's going to be very, very difficult, I think, to have a society that, as we know today, it's going to look extremely, extremely different in terms of where we are. So, in thinking about looking to what 2026 and understanding what's ahead, there's some repeat bullets here. I think we have a very tough job market. It's the toughest that we've seen since 2008. Depending on where you are in the Bay Area, if you're in the Bay Area for this or you work in tech, it might even be the worst since we've seen since the dot-com bubble. Um, Competition is fiercer than ever across all functions. And as we've said, AI leads everything, and the bubble is continuing to grow and sucks oxygen out of the room until I don't think it'll ever really kind of stop because I think this is something that companies are going to continue doing. Lower interest rates aren't necessarily going to be more jobs. I wouldn't have said this about 12 months ago, but I'm going to say that now, and we'll explain that in a moment here. And it's important that as we go into 2026 that It's important to look for opportunities in the most unlikely places with your AI skills and with your network. I don't know how many of you had the word pivot as your word for 2026 or adjustment because you're going through what you're going through. But as I'm going to say in my very last slide, don't retire that word yet if pivot is your word for the year, because I think you're going to be using it a lot more in 2026 as well, particularly if a 9 to 5 W-2 job is the only thing that's keeping you that's keeping you up at night right now. I think we're going to go and see a lot of different things. And so that's actually the first tech trend, which is probably obvious to many of you, but I'll just put it out there anyway, right? Is that AI mania is staying no matter what. I think that when I think about this, uh, the AI game is a lot like the cloud game in that a lot of these companies have no idea where things are headed, and they're aiming for the moon, and they absolutely will settle for hitting the stars because at least that means they hit something. And what are the trends that are leading into this, right? Is that number one, government investment in AI is astronomical. We have David Sachs in the U.S. federal government, who is a major investor and VC in our various companies in Silicon Valley, and he has also a lot of influence over crypto and AI policy. AI has also played a part in 2025 layoffs and are going to be a big part in 2026, I think. It would not shock me if we entered the year with a lot more layoff announcements. I know that Amazon Web Services is going to be laying off a lot of people starting in January because they probably want to do a greater pivot into AI as well. And so you can already see the worker adjustment and retraining notices here in the United States that show that a lot of these employees in New York, in San Francisco, and in LA who work for Amazon Web Services are going to lose their jobs. Now is also the time to learn, regardless of the bubble that we see. So, whether you're invested in ChatGPT, using something for free, etc., it's important that you know how AI works because if you don't, you'll probably be replaced by somebody who knows AI or at least be passed on in your interview process due to the fact. And so that last thing of get in or be left behind is something that you've heard from everybody, but I think it's also important to kind of justify that too. So, after each trend in this presentation, I'm going to give you the tea leaves. So, what does that mean, right? So, at worst, AI is going to augment our jobs. We're all going to have an AI buddy next to us, an AI chatbot that's going to do our work with us. And I say at worst because it's like, or maybe that should be at best, right? Because we're hoping that AI doesn't destroy our careers completely, although we are starting to see that AI is taking over a lot of functions at work, and there are fewer people needed for a lot of different jobs and job areas. And then at worst, right, all of our jobs get taken away. We get to sit at home and eat bonbons and get a universal basic income check every single month. I am not for that, not because it, eliminates what I want to do for a living and for work, but because I think it's not the best way to run a society. So when it comes to the AI piece, it's also not going to be about what AI you use, but whether you can use it at all. Um, and so, and so, really, it's jumping in and starting from somewhere, building a niche, or going out wide. Robbie, you ask what AI course has more demand? If you're asking about classes, I really don't have a recommendation for a class. I'm a person that likes to jump in and just go, and go from there. Jaime asks, what are your thoughts on the extent of AI use? Is it simple uses of ChatGPT or more complex things like using Claude, Cursor, and now Google's anti-gravity? I think it's a combination of both. And we've seen, and many of you have heard by now, how much AI has affected the software engineering industry. In particular, that you can go and you can buy yourself a subscription to Cursor or Replit and or even use Google Gemini and code something from scratch and build yourself a mini software as a service and then sell that mini software as a service too. And that's, I think, going to be a lot of businesses in the future here as they look forth. And so I think that it's a combination of both. I'm mostly still in the simple uses of ChatGPT. I haven't automated a lot of my things, but that's something that I would like to do. And so And so depending on where all these use cases go and everything, it's going to be really interesting to see where all that lands. And so the rest of the tea leaves are this, right? I mentioned that AI is going to aim to hit the moon and also land in the stars concurrently because they're trying to really make artificial general intelligence happen. Um, I listen to enough podcasts on both sides of the aisle every single week that pretty much tell you the story of both. And at the end of the day, I'm really just trying to break through all the marketing speak, all the investor speak, and understand that what's going on. And so that's actually my final bullet is that you have to differentiate the marketing slop from the realities too. For every single person like me who says that AI is the future and you really, really have to learn it, there are also people who look at the current state of AI and they look at it realistically from a technical standpoint and they're like, what on earth really is this? Right. Yeah. So Henry has it right. AGI is very far off if you know a bit about how all these models work. And so I'm not as technical, but I am looking for speakers in 2026 to really separate the reality from the hype that everything is. So if you are somebody who knows AI at that level, get in touch because I definitely want to talk to you about it and have you on to talk about it because I think it's really important to do so. But yeah, differentiating the marketing slop from the realities is a huge thing because I think that you have a lot of people who are trying to sell you software. When Dario Amodei, who is the CEO of Anthropic, goes on 60 Minutes or any of your favorite TV shows and says that the unemployment rate will go to 20% in a few years and that half of all the jobs are going to be destroyed, it's also important to remember that he is trying to sell you software and a software platform. And that by not doing so, by not saying the things that he says, he prevents his opportunity from selling software to a business owner. And so being able to differentiate that marketing from the reality of where things stand really makes a huge, huge difference. Trend number two is gonna be an interesting one. This is not so much job search related, but it's something to consider if you own a home, if you own cryptocurrency, stock, etc. It's going to be an ownership market in the next, I think, couple of years. Trump's One Big Beautiful bill, which passed earlier in the United States, is going to benefit asset owners and not really job seekers as much. Mostly because it gave businesses and corporations and billionaires a gigantic tax cut. But it also gave asset owners, such as homeowners here in the United States, the ability to write off almost as much as $40,000 on their state and local taxes. And that combined with Trump appointing or thinking to appoint somebody that's within his inner circle to be Federal Reserve Chairman is going to be a really, really, really interesting future because they've been pressuring Federal Reserve Chairman Powell to lower rates for a super long time. And there's been a lot of resistance, and we're seeing some cracks into that resistance now as some of these Federal Reserve governors push back on some of that policy. And so that combined with corporations making record profits that they reinvest back into AI, plus the interest rates of next year, plus the appreciation of assets, and plus with quantitative easing already beginning here in the United States, where the government is printing more money. If you own a home, if you own stocks, if you own crypto, if you own something that gold, silver as well in that list, you're going to see all of those things go way up in value. And whether those actually translate into jobs may not necessarily happen because people are going to look to AI to augment whatever it is that they're augmenting before they hire people. So if you have assets, if you have a home or anything like that, and you're in the United States, it may be time to take out a home equity line of credit to see if you can flip your home and go buy more assets that can appreciate and really help you retire early. If you don't have an asset, it may also be time for you to look at starting a side hustle with AI that you can truly own, build a software company, build automations, build things that you can sell and resell, and that can increase in value as well over time. And so that's actually where we lead into the tea leaves. For many Americans, and this could also apply for many other Western countries around the world, depending on where you are, it may be your last chance to ever get into owning an asset. And I apologize for sounding like Robert Kiyosaki here. I have no real estate to sell you. I have no financial course to sell you. I am not in that business. But I think about it that way only because the trends seem to tell me that that's where things are headed. And so the lower interest rates also in that sense benefit those loan benefit owners. So if you can, right, load up. If you're thinking about getting into cryptocurrency or increasing your exposure to it, cryptocurrency goes up when money printing goes up because the value of the US dollar will decline. Um, the one job thing here that I think does matter is that the startup scene is going to continue to heat up. And so because you're going to get a lot of cheaper money and money will be cheaper to borrow, it's going to be a good time to build your own startup or join one to get on the rocket ship, particularly if it's in AI, healthcare, cybersecurity, analytics, and things like that. And so that's something that's going to be interesting too. And then on the other hand, if you're also looking at quitting, so let's say a white collar job and as a whole and going into the trades, learning a trade outright could also be a good path, whether you're a business owner in that world or whether you're somebody who is young enough to go and learn how to do plumbing or learn how to do electrician type work. So that's trend number two for you. I hope I didn't sell anything too hard there. I'd love some feedback in the webinar chat if you have any. Trend number three, we're going to go back to job searching a little bit here, and this is going to be about being a strategic searcher. So last year, I had a prediction, or I guess I called it a trend. And what I said in that particular trend was this. I said that the commoditization of certain skill-based jobs will require you to be a more strategic thinker. The commoditization of of skill-based jobs that we have long seen replaced by AI, such as coding, UX, UI design, writing, even some aspects of data entry, have been eroded by AI and are going to require people to think a lot differently as they go into their career. And so what does that mean? That means that visionary thinking, that means being in the right communities of networks, that means being able to think and see the forest for the trees, or rather see the trees instead of the forest. I think what I mean by that is basically look at the big picture is going to be very, very important looking forward, while also being able to execute on those and understanding how to operate AI to help you out there. And so that means to think like an owner. That means to think about things strategically. So today, for example, you are a UX, UI designer, or you are a content writer. It behooves you to look at your job from that standpoint of a creative director or a marketing manager that can see the entire content lifecycle throughout your entire job. And that means that you'll have to learn AI to think like that, but also to know how to be a visionary person for that kind of thing. And so, right, AI is going to continue to erode job skills, and the future belongs to those who have that visionary mindset. And so, whether AI ends up being what it ends up being or completely collapses, I think you're still going to see AI tools that exist that are going to exist in that small language model, that industry specific use case sense. And it is people who are going to be able to operate those types of AI and have all the prompts ready in their mind to do those and do those well that are ultimately going to win when it comes to their overall job search. And so that's that's being able to understand where it means to be a strategic job searcher. Trend number four, it's not about who you know and who knows you. Or rather, it's not about who you know or what you know. It's about who knows you. In a tight job market, a network of people who are very personal to you is incredibly important. Um, because there are so many people applying for jobs on a day-to-day basis. So heading out to a networking event is good. Heading out to a focused networking event is better. but networking with people who are familiar to you, whether it's individuals you used to work with, colleges you used to attend, you attended, or even just social networks that already exist are good to you. And this is where I get to remind each and every one of you. We are here in a webinar right now with a lot of people from around the world. So you have a chance to introduce yourself in the webinar chat, share your LinkedIn profile, tell us what you're looking for, and let us know where you're dialing in from. Now is always the chance to do so. And so that's a chance for you to grow your LinkedIn, meet new people, potentially collaborate, and so much more. And right, there's a lot of places where you can do that these days. Many of you discovered me off of Meetup and Eventbrite. Others of you discovered me off of Luma. And so these are all places to go and look for your next event opportunity where you can network with people. And maybe there are message boards and other technologies within your communities as well. And so I encourage you to use these to the fullest extent. Spend less time applying to jobs overall and spend more time on LinkedIn, spend more time at these events, finding the relevant people that you need to find so that you can be effective in your job search process. Pratik says, I looked at my LinkedIn Messenger list and reached out to anyone who I had in contact in the last 5 years and asked if they wanted to reconnect. And then I'm currently looking for a role. Reply rate was low as expected, but it did result in an upcoming interview for me. Yeah, you're gonna get a low reply rate anyway because that's just how LinkedIn sort of works. But I also think that if you do something like that, that you are going out and you are speaking to people that you know personally. So I encourage you to definitely put that into action and take advantage of it. Trend number 5 is to target the hot industries and locations. This one's kind of obvious, right? So if you know it already, then fantastic. But if you haven't thought about it yet, because maybe your heart is set on going back to what you've been using in the past, this should be your wake-up call, right? So transferable skills, transferring into industries that are hot, being flexible are all really, really key here. And so what we're doing in this particular trend is we're encouraging you to move as the market evolves. And one aspect is looking at, let's say, AI as the next place. And this is the value of total venture capital deals by region in this last quarter, Q3 of 2025. This is how much investors piled into everything versus everything else that they invested in. And if you look at the case of this, really, at least in North America, you're seeing that the majority of investments have gone into AI and machine learning value. If you're in Asia, on the other hand, or the rest of the world, or Europe, you're noticing that other businesses are getting the lion's share of the investment. But at least if you're here in the Bay Area, if you're on the East Coast, if you're somewhere in between, AI is sucking all the oxygen out of the room. And so it behooves you to go to a place, go to a website that looks at investment deals like this, like Strictly VC, to see which companies are getting funding, because sometimes that funding translates into runway that some of these companies then use to hire people. And so that's a consideration in terms of where to go next. Pratik writes, creating or maintaining a relationship with another individual is much more productive than trying to do the same with a company. I agreed. Mohan writes, I am interested in UX design. Recently, I've completed my studies and did one internship in UX design. If anybody knows about UX design or any guidance about this will help me for my career. Awesome. If you're in UX, UI, reach out to Mohan. So, in thinking about where things are headed in the future, I created this little handy dandy chart of if you're thinking about where to transition into at some point, what to run toward and what to run away from. One thing is healthcare, right? Healthcare in the cities in particular. In the United States in particular, if you're running towards healthcare, being in a rural area may not necessarily help, given that the One Big Beautiful Bill borrowed a bunch of money and took away a bunch of money from Medicaid to fund other things. So that's one thing to think about. One thing to run away from is leisure and hospitality. I think in the United States, especially as tourism is down and as a lot of these places move to AI, you're going to see a lot of fewer jobs in this area. Las Vegas in particular. is uh, replacing their blackjack dealers and replacing a lot of their bell people with robots. And so that's where that level is going. We've talked about AI, analytics, cybersecurity, and crypto versus everything else in tech. I'm also going to say data centers and certain clean energy are also going to be things to run towards in 2026, especially as AI, nuclear energy come back in. And then other clean energy areas such as solar and so forth are probably not going to see the benefit that we'd hope to. If you're looking to work in government, local government is the place to be, with the exception in federal government if you're going to go work for the Immigration and Custom Enforcement Office. Meanwhile, run away from federal government because they are trying to make that smaller. Um, Run toward financial services. A lot more money is going to need to be managed. Um, and I also think you're going to see a lot of fintech continue to grow. Run away from nonprofits, especially as the larger nonprofits see less government funding come in for them as government becomes more scrutinizing. And then run toward advanced manufacturing and run away from traditional manufacturing. Yeah, awesome. Good work, Greg. Yeah, build a collaborative community. Um, should anyone run away from web design? It depends on the kind of web design you're doing. If you are building websites for small businesses and individual freelancers, then yes, you should absolutely run away from it because you're going to see a lot of that stuff automated by Replit, Cursor, Lovable, etc. If you're building big enterprise complex websites that do a lot of different things, then I would say run towards that. Use your AI technology to use the AI technology to be a lot more compelling. Jaime says, I am currently a software engineer in banking, but looking to move over to Australia from New Zealand. Would be great to connect with anyone. Awesome, great. Pratik asks, what's the difference between traditional and advanced manufacturing? I would say assembly line versus robotics, especially as companies in the United States, especially reshore and look to take things away from having to hire people. Here's another chart of growing jobs that are expected from the the World Economic Foundation between now and 2030. Obviously, big data specialists, fintech engineers, and really a lot of jobs that have anything to do with AI are expected to grow and grow a lot. So, if you are within this area too, that's something to consider. I would also say that another thing to consider if you're in the United States is the geographic aspect of things, right? So the Mountain West, Southeast, and South are growing as inflation and the high cost of living erodes livability and business costs on the coasts. So you're seeing a lot less population growth in a lot of certain places, while you're seeing those people move to places like Texas, North Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, and Utah and Colorado. And North Dakota is interesting on that list too because there's a lot of oil and a lot of trucking that comes out of that. A higher population growth means there's more services and more jobs, and industry transition also matters as well. So, right, I mean, obviously there aren't any coal workers here that I think of, but in case you are one, West Virginia is slated to decline by 15% over the next 25 years. And so if you're working in, steel, Rust Belt, manufacturing type capacities, that industry transition matters as well, especially as a lot of California, companies go to Texas, Florida, North Carolina, Utah, and Colorado even. And really the net of that is to follow the money because that's where things are going to head. That's where things are going to head. And so yeah, that's where things are. So even with that, look 5 to 15 years ahead, even with the potential AI doom. All right, trend number six is to interview like you mean it and understand what's at stake, right? I think interviews are going to matter more than ever, and they have been mattering more than ever because of what job seekers are going through in this job search process. If you can get an interview for a lot of folks, it is that one interview that can almost make or break your week. And so you have to be able to prepare for that interview, understand your stories, and really work through everything. And so when it comes to an interview, what we talk about in our boot camps and so forth is that it's important to understand what's at stake between you, your customers, your boss, your colleagues, the company you work at, and the industry that you work in. All of these things matter because you're going to be collaborating with people on all steps of this value chain. And so when it comes to interview questions, it's important to be familiar with all the questions that are out there, right? The fact, personality, situational, and hypothetical questions that you must be able to answer. And so you can use ChatGPT or your favorite AI to figure out how you can answer these questions in collaboration with your existing resume and LinkedIn documents. And so I encourage you to do that. Trend number seven, which really probably should be an earlier trend, is that employee leverage is going to grow a lot more next year as well. AI mania means that a lot less money is going to be available for workers and probably more readily available for investment. And so for a lot of people, it's the quit rate has gone down, right? And so you've seen that during the Great Resignation days, which was really between 2021 and 2022, a lot of people were leaving their jobs because there were more job openings than they could afford to do so. And now we're seeing that chart go way, way down. And so if it's bad or your contract is ending, obviously you need to leave. But as some folks are saying, it probably is more important to stay as well. It's more important to stay if the job is going well and, to not really leave unless you absolutely have to, or you're in an industry that is in super high demand. If you're somebody who's looking for work, um, take your leverage back however you can. Contracts, 1099s could help, freelancing to help keep your career moving. And if you're still in that job too, and things maybe are not going well, or they are, continue to build skills and networks outside of your job. All right, Stevie, welcome back. Thank you for asking a question. What would you suggest to people who don't have application experience in those run toward categories but are interested in pursuing careers in them? Usually, these people already in the later stages of their career and are no longer in the student phase of life. Would it behoove them to take an online course or ramp up in their domain knowledge by preparing for an AI or IT certification or doing a self-study program? So this is a very unique question, Stevie. Um, Number one, I think uh, right now is not necessarily the time to transition careers because there are a lot of people who are in those specific domains that have laid off that are also looking for that type of work. And so, if you are going to embark on the run toward category, what you need to do is, yeah, stand out. And so that means you have to show up to the networking events you might not otherwise do so, get certifications, but also look at bridge jobs that are going to help. So maybe you are a software developer and you've traditionally been in one space, but you want to go into healthcare to be a software developer. In that sense, what you would probably do is instead of going into healthcare fully, maybe you go work for a health tech company. Maybe you start a health tech blog and you really get passionate about that so that it makes sense to you. And when you're in an interview process, you're able to think, talk, act like the people who are in that industry. So yeah. Robbie, I don't the demand for a front end software developer has also dropped significantly with AI. So I think it's a lot lower than where it has been. So yeah, this is the quit rate versus the job openings. This is an interesting one. And then I think the other one that we're looking at here too is that job openings and AI have also significantly changed the calculus of where the job search has gone too. Up until really pretty much the middle of 2022, we saw a situation where unemployment and where job openings and the S&P 500 definitely correlated with each other. And the S&P 500 has moved at a much different rate now for the last 3 years than job openings. And so this goes back to sort of the owner mentality of where things have been and where they're going to be heading into the future. And so also something to watch as we go forward. Vivian asks, what are your thoughts on doing pro bono work to gain specific domain experience such as AI and fill employment gaps? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If you can do that, then do that. But also take your existing skills and leverage them as well so that you can use them with AI and make money and not have to take those pro bono projects. All right. So what do you do once you get hired? So this is kind of the same thing that I've been mentioning in the past, is that it's not the time to rest, but rather to keep going. And now it's time to perform. And so a new job, right, once you get that in the new year here, whenever it may be, means learning new skills, earning increased duties, building AI skills, developing leadership, and growing your communication skills along the way. It also means figuring out that you still need to survive because jobs in this market are rarely forever. And so it's important to keep networking and build your brand. And as you register accomplishments, write them down for your resume and stay in touch with your old recruiters. And so, in the net of all of this, what does everything I just said for 2026 really mean? Um, and what it really just means is that the struggles of 2025 are going to continue into this new year for job seekers. I think if pivot again was your word for last year, and change and adjustment, I think we're still going to continue seeing that in this year ahead. I think we're going to see layoffs bleed over from tech into other areas as AI mania impacts these other spots, right? We've seen it happen at Target, we've seen it happen at Verizon, and I think that's just going to keep on going. We're also going to see a few industries continue to grow and then burst, and that's probably going to be AI. I'm going to make a super, super bold prediction next year that one of these main AI tools that you use today, Gemini, ChatGPT, Grok even, is going to fall apart. And actually, my pick for that is going to be ChatGPT. I think that, there's enough to keep them going for a little bit here, but I also think that due to the fact that they don't have enough connectivity points like a Google Gemini, that it's going to go in a certain direction that may or may not work out for them. And so, it also finally may not be good to just focus on landing a job, but also to expand into side hustles and even more. All right, so we had another question here. Raul says, how is the market looking for skilled data engineers in Q1 2026? And is it true that Q1 sees a high surge in tech hiring? Data engineers is one of the top trending jobs that we saw earlier. I also think that we are going to get more jobs in Q1 just because that's usually how it happens. So hopefully that is something that is good for you too. Yeah. Lisa, can we get a copy of this recording or webinar? Yes, absolutely. I'm gonna follow up with you probably tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon with the webinar and recording. All right, so we're here in the last final part of our webinar today. This is where we talk about taking action, and in particular, what is that you do to really get into the next piece of being with Albert's List and taking advantage of these skills. And so, what I want to invite you to is our Winter 2026 Job Search Bootcamp. We're actually doing a preview for this webinar tomorrow, for this bootcamp tomorrow. So, I invite you to join us for 3 secrets to getting unstuck in your 2026 job search. And so this 6 week boot camp, I'll preview a little bit for you now, features career coaches, career strategists, and so forth, and accountability from people who really want to be doing well in their job hunt. And so tomorrow, if you attend the webinar, I'm going to get you a special holiday code that you can use to get an extra discount off our tuition. Mohan writes, is UX designing a demanding job in New Zealand in 2026? That is super, super specific, and I don't really have an answer for you on that one. Chris says, I got laid off in 20. Oh, that message disappeared. Okay, cool. For something more recent, I also want you to sign up for our monthly economics webinar. So we feature Dr. Riley White, who is a finance professor at the University of New Mexico, and he comes in every month to answer your questions and really share what the job market is like, especially particularly here in the United States. And so this is a chance to hear from him, ask the right questions, and learn where the market will be headed. So I'm going to go ahead and drop these links one by one into the webinar chat as we go. We also take mock interviews. So if you are willing to do a mock interview in front of a live Zoom audience, such as this one, this is where we provide that opportunity for you to do so. And so we feature a non-technical recruiter at a Fortune 500 company or a senior software engineer if you're looking to do a technical interview. So please send an email to my email here with your resume and a job description and or or a coding interview type to get started. And so I invite you to do that. Yes. So yeah, you provide a job description and the interview is going to be based off of that and your resume. Cool. You can also pick up AI skills with our upcoming webinars as well. So we have a bunch of these coming up that include using ChatGPT to strategize your job search in 1 hour, build a side hustle with eBay and AI, building an AI agent, or discovering how AI will affect your job search in person as an in-person event. And so these are all available through our Eventbrite page off the QR code. So if you want to go ahead and sign up for that, feel free to click on that here. Cool. Okay. So that's a little bit more. And then if you're looking for something a little bit different and want to work on your own, we also have the Job Seeker Survival Kit. This is 55 hours worth of content valued at $2,000 that I'm dropping to just $17 for the holiday season. These feature a lot of our previous webinars. Some of these are paid events as well. And they're a chance for you to really just, during the holiday season, or maybe you're on your way to family and you're hopping and you're getting into the plane, something to put in your earbuds as you think along that. And we also have office hours to complement that as well. And so these office hours are just $20 for the entire year and give you access to me every couple of weeks where you can get any of your AI questions answered. So it's a chance for you to it's a chance for you to really engage with other job seekers um, and get that level of focus. So and then in addition to that, if you also want, we also have our free resume template that I've used that helped me get 35 offers over the last few job searches. So feel free to download that. Give me a tip in the tip jar if you'd like, and I can help you out with that. So point your phone to these and take a look at these as well. And then finally, I want to give you an opportunity to stay in touch with me, as well as join our community. So if you're looking for a chance to join our group, this is our Facebook group right here. We're always welcoming people who are looking to answer job search questions, and so forth. And then I'm also inviting people to visit my YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel here always has a lot of these videos, and will really help you, watch some of these YouTube shorts as well to get you in the aspect of understanding what we're talking about. All right, so with all that, we are here at the top of the hour. I will take a few questions if there are any, but if not, let's actually take a look at the poll. So I've kept this poll going now for the remainder of this hour, and oh my goodness, okay. How do you feel about the job market heading into 2026? Um, 53% of you said negative, 43% of you said neutral, and 3% of you said positive. And that's really, really great to hear because for a long time, that number has been a lot wider between negative and neutral. And so hopefully we get a few more positive feeling folks for the remainder of the year, but that is really, really good. All right, so I'm available for any questions here for the next minute or so, as long as there are questions to be had. Please feel free to share a question here. Let's see. What are your thoughts about the marketing communications field moving forward in regards to AI automation? Ooh, that's a really interesting one. So, marketing is a very, very wide net there, right? Because you have social media marketing, event marketing, product marketing, content marketing. And I think that each of those aspects has areas that are going to be automated, whether it's brainstorming, whether it's competitive intelligence. And I think in a lot of ways, AI is going to be a complementary technology to all of that. I think I see the same thing in communications where you might be able to draft things a lot faster, but how things are strategically said is going to be a lot different. So I would see that learning AI skills in this area is going to be really, really key. Henry says, I've studied for work in game development, but also made it so I can branch into software engineering. I applied to more software jobs than game dev ones. One reason I've been given for being unsuccessful with getting a software job is because employers can tell that I want to work in games and think I won't stick around. This is persistent even if I style my application heavily towards software. How accurate do you think this sentiment is? Yeah, so um I think that if you are, I think that you have to uh, go straight into games because gaming is a very impacted field. And so these companies are going to want to know whether you're passionate about it in the first place. And they want people who will stay as long as they possibly can. Because, hiring a new person is still incredibly expensive. And so I think in that realm, it is important to just actually go for it. And if you're not going to go for it initially, then just say in your interview that that you're trying to become a software engineer in X industry and leave it at that. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think it also depends on that mindset. Erica, is it as tough to get work in freelance or 1099 as W-2? I think it depends, and I think it depends on where you're going for those jobs. So, I would open up my net and really look at all of them. Alex, I have a question about the demand for product managers compared to product marketing managers in the age of AI. What is your take on on both professions? I'm considering a pivot from PM to PMM and would like to know if it's still doable. I actually think that it's easier to go from PM to PMM than the other way around, simply because of the frameworks that are involved in the PM world. And the unique thing about PMs these days is that they also act as entry-level software engineers, which is why you've seen such a drop in software engineering in the first place, because um, product managers sort of had that vision and they understand where things are going. And so the really important thing there is that as a PM, if you're able to do that, then you can articulate the product pretty well. And as a PMM, you already know the product. All you really need to know is how to build demand for it. Um, Chelsea, what if you are interested? What if what you're interested is not where the money is? Um, then you're going to be fighting a lot greater competition when it comes to the job in mind. Um, Yeah, you're gonna definitely be in a much tougher spot. Muhammad, you wanted input on my on your LinkedIn profile. I'm not gonna do that on this webinar here. If you would like a LinkedIn review, reach out to me separately. All right, any other questions? Maybe I'll take one more before we conclude here. How's everybody feeling as we head into the new year after this presentation? Scared. Oh my goodness. Still nervous. Numb. Oh my goodness. Not expecting good things. Anyone feel positive? Nervous, but at least informed. Good. Yeah. If at least you come out here being feeling informed, then that's a good thing. If you want to take more action, join us for some more of these webinars and let's talk about it. So, living the dream until I wake up. Oh my. Hopeful. All right. Well, with that said, I don't see any other questions coming in. Um, so, and I do agree with you, Henry, that it's all about in the side hustle now. So definitely go that route if you have to. But with that said, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I want to thank you for all the time that you've spent here. It has been a very, very chaotic year for all of us here in this job search world, but It will get into something before I think it gets better. And we all have all of us here to help us out. So feel free to join us for any of our number of webinars. And yes, we will send out an email as well, I think via the Eventbrite page so that all of you can get in there. And we look forward to seeing you soon, whether it's online or in person. And have a wonderful rest of your night and best luck and everything. And thank you again so much for your time. Goodbye.